How you doing? Haven't seen you in a long time. What's going on?
Well, we both started new ventures since we spoke last. Yeah, I have to congratulate you on your AI, whatever you would call it, blog,
Thank you.
newsletter. It's great, and I listen to it every day. So,
Oh, thank you very much. I'm glad I at least have one listener.
there you go. Your number one fan.
You know what they say? They say, if you have one listener or one reader, you're a success, right? At least one person out there.
It sets the bar just a little low.
That's
on one condition, and that is you're not relying on this to make money.
Exactly. What unless of course you got like a really like one client, like say one client, right? That's all you get. You need one client, but
yeah,
the right kind of client.
The right kind of client, what we all dream of.
So yeah, the problem I have with AI is that it gets me from idea to execution too quickly. So I come up with an idea and then like 20 minutes later, it's almost done. I'm like, what am I doing? Was that a good idea? I have to stop and think to myself, was that even a good idea? Should I have even have done that? But I have to control myself because the tools are so cool, and it's so you can build things so amazingly quickly that I have to stop and think, wait a minute, is this something?
And certainly today the power of those tools represent a danger, not a critical danger as some people are claiming, but certainly something where you need to understand the limits of the capability of the tool.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I don't know if you've been following my other show where I talk about using it for a writing buddy. So I'm writing a science fiction novel, and it's a time travel novel, and it's sort of like a kind of riffs off the old pulp novels, the old sci-fi 50s pulp novels. And I started off really strong with ChatGPT of going, oh, it's helping me this, it's helping me do this, it's helping me do this. And then as time went by, it got you less and less useful. And now I'm just writing it myself. It's not, every now and then I ask it for, can you help me set a scene for, the ancient city of Ur or Alexandria or something like that. But beyond that, it's terrible. It doesn't remember. It doesn't remember characters. It doesn't remember the way that what they look like, the way they act. Nothing. So it's not helpful in the least. So it actually ended up being more of a detriment than an assistant.
As you say, great to get started with. Yeah. But recognize its limitations.
Yeah. Exactly. So you are starting a new venture.
I am starting my 8th venture. Yes.
You're counting? I think I have a list of about like 20, 30 different things that I've tried and failed at. So hopefully all those have been successes.
Oh no. Isn't that the secret of being an effective mentor, which is that you've failed enough times that you've got lots of examples of where your mentee should not be going.
Yeah. Or what's it? Edison's quote is like, I've figured out 10,000 ways of how not to build a light bulb.
Absolutely. But and I like the other quote that experience, good judgment comes from experience, and experience comes from bad judgment. And of course, I always claim to be very experienced, which in fact I am. But man, amazing. Yeah, because I've been tracking your Saturday morning discussions. I haven't had a chance to get on one. There was always something blocking me from getting onto it. I will do it at some point, but your topics sound fascinating, and I love the concept. Yeah, it hasn't grown the way I'd like it to, but we have a small group of regular attendees, and it's totally offline in terms of my business, but it's providing a benefit. We've now had 23, I think.
Oh wow, fantastic! And you're not recording any of them, so
No, I didn't want to. That was a deliberate decision, because it frees people up to say whatever they want to. And
also, I think I agree. I think we need more ephemeral stuff in the world, because there's just too much recorded things going on that people can check. I mean, it's kind of like, my son is a musician. He's like, back in the past, all concerts were in person, right? The music would be played, and it'd be ephemeral. If you didn't attend, you're out of luck. You missed it. And we're not in that age anymore. And we're in the age of record it and listen to it later. And I think we need more of that ephemeral stuff to happen.
I would agree, but I don't think it will ever happen.
No.
I think the genie is out of the bottle. And it's interesting you bring up musician, because the guy who is helping me with this and who's done my website, I think done a great job on it, Josh Santos, is a talented musician who was starting a business, and I was mentoring him through that startup. And then AI generative came along, and what he wanted to do was now being done for anybody. And as it happens, it was at the timing when I was starting up this business. And so now he's joined me and working with me. And I am delighted, because in many senses, he is the avatar of Acorn Masterminds. He is the startup that I want to help.
Nice.
And so it works very well. And when he puts in some text, which is certainly not the way I would have expressed it, I say, you're the expert. You're my avatar. So if that's the way you would say it, I'll accept that. Put it in. It's great. It really
fantastic.
Is. So
why don't you tell us a little bit about how it operates? Okay.
Well, look, I need to start off a little bit with some definitions.
Okay.
There are 4 terms that are used somewhat interchangeably, and they are coach, consultant, counselor, and mentor. And they really have a separate focus, which, if I briefly describe, a coach is somebody who helps someone attain or improve a skill.
Right.
Whereas a counselor and consultant are involved predominantly with problem solving, but not problem implementing.
They're solution implementing and guessing.
They define the solution. But in order to implement the solution, you might do it yourself, or you might need a coach, because it may require a skill you don't have.
Right.
So on the consultant side, it's physical business, whereas on the counselor side, it's the emotional aspect of
right. But in some cases, the consultant actually does implement too, right? If they don't want.
That's the point that I'm slowly getting to. So
Sorry.
I've got one more in this, and that is the mentor. And the primary value that a mentor brings to a mentee is experience. And as I've already said, that implies failure is far more valuable than success, because when you succeed at something, you don't really know whether you succeeded because you did everything brilliantly, or whether you just happened to be timing it right and got the right contacts and whatever.
Exactly. Which I feel is like 99% of success, really, is timing.
Absolutely. But you can't teach that. You can't help a mentor to a mentee to time things better. So I see this as a hierarchy, where at the lowest level, you've got a coach And above that coach, you have the consultant and counselor in parallel. And above those two, you have a mentor.
Mm-hmm.
Now, your point was, I think, was absolutely correct. You overlap the, as a mentor, you end up coaching or you counsel, and the same way you end up helping with skills if you're any of them can help with skills.
But the mentor and the coach and the counselor really aren't really supposed to do any implementation. They're supposed to recommend a course of action for you. And I think the consultant is really the only one who could conceivably actually implement at the same time. So I can tell you what you should do, and then you could turn around to me and say, okay, go do it. Right. Whereas the others are more.
I think that's true. I think the coach is the sort of most detailed of the four.
Right.
And the issue that all of us, I've been in all four categories. I've done work in all four categories. And the secret to success is recognizing when you're going too far over the boundary.
Right.
When as a mentor, you're becoming a consultant.
Yeah.
And should be saying, you need a consultant, go and get one. And maybe I'll give you some advice. I might even help you choose, but I'm not your consultant.
Right.
And I think that's a critical element for any of those four categories to understand. So that brings me to mentoring. And there's one other definition, and that is masterminds. In the world of mentoring, there are different options. There is obviously the one-on-one mentor, somebody who you can turn to, who has done this before and can advise you as you go on your journey. Then there is the group mentoring, which is typically a lower cost solution in that you sit in a group and you are advised in general, usually, by the leader of that group.
Kind of like the Pope in an audience, right? Audience of the Pope sort of thing.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. So that's group mentoring. And then you've got this concept of masterminds, which I find fascinating and I think is absolutely the future. And a mastermind is one in which a group of people get together regularly and help each other solve each other's problems based on their own experience and contacts and knowledge. So that's what a mastermind is. Now, this leads me to...
but it sounds like a mastermind encapsulates all four of those other roles.
Well, it's mentoring. So yes, it encapsulates all four, and it encourages people to have consultants and counselors, and in many cases to develop skills, maybe in their business where there is an absence of a skill which is necessary. And the mastermind, one of the members would point that out. A mastermind is essentially peer-to-peer mentoring. And what is wonderful about masterminds is that once you form a mastermind, you're part of a mastermind, you get to know people over a period of time, you get to trust them, and they become an external source of support. Very powerful, and one that can go on forever. I mean, if you have a group, you're group mentoring, you're dependent upon whoever's doing the mentoring. If you have an individual, you're even more dependent because that individual may choose to go somewhere else or retire or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
So there's limits, whereas a mastermind is something that can last as long as the participants want it to.
Right. And it could grow and contract and change, right?
Absolutely.
over time.
People come and go. Somebody is in the mastermind, but is growing faster than the others. And at some point in time says, guys, I've got to join another mastermind because I need more input from other people who've gone further than I have.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, it's dynamic, but it can last forever. And that's why what we're talking about is a concept of lifelong mentoring. If you belong to a group and want to stick around, you have the availability of lifelong mentoring. And for a business CEO, that's an incredibly valuable asset, because you and I have both done businesses, and when you're working with other people, you may see cracks in your organization, but you're not prepared to talk to anybody about that without having a really good solution.
Exactly.
So what you have is a mastermind, which is external to your business, where you can say, hey guys, I see this crack coming. Is it serious? And what should I do about it?
Yeah. And there's a lot of things you can't talk about with your partners.
Exactly.
Right? I mean, there's just no way you could share these issues with them. And then at the same time, you also see this huge upsurge in solopreneurs, which I hate that term, by the way, but where are they going to turn for advice? They don't have any partners to talk to.
But fantastic, because that's exactly the type of mentoring I've been doing. So looking at this whole mentoring environment and wanting to emphasize new entrepreneurs. There was a Forbes article fairly recently which talked about over 50% of businesses failing in their first 5 years.
It's that low? I thought it was much higher than that.
I heard 90%, like I suspect you did. But when from what I understand, the number that Forbes was using was excluding businesses that just shut down or businesses that got taken over, but really talked about businesses that failed. The bank called the debt, and it was personally guaranteed, and you just couldn't continue the business. Right. Or the landlord.
That's got to be a small. I mean, there's plenty of others that fit outside. I would consider them failures too.
Well, I mean, the other would be landlords. You're behind in your rent.
Right.
And they have the right of taking back their property. Well, if you're running a restaurant and your landlord takes back your property, you don't have a business anymore.
Yeah, that's right. Unless you can find some other place to go in time, and that's almost impossible. Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, your credit is not great, obviously, under those circumstances. So there is this percentage failure, and really it doesn't matter whether it's 50 or 90. It's a tragedy.
It's pretty high. Yeah, it's very high.
And it's sad. It's sad that people have the guts to go out and start an idea and want to contribute to the economy in which they live, and they try and they fail. And in the Forbes article, it talked about 4 different reasons, and they were all classical reasons. Of course, the marketing, the team, the people, all the classical stuff.
Yeah. Or the number one reason, the product itself. Nobody wants it.
Well, which leads to a very interesting point. 2 points. One is that in the 4 reasons that Forbes gave, there was not what I would suggest is the number 1 reason. I'm biased, but I believe it true, which is the absence of mentoring. I think that if people have that mentor, then they would be in a position to anticipate a lot of the problems which ended up causing them to go under. Now, your point I fully agree with, and it leads to something of my, quote, experience. I grew up in a society, business world, where I believed that if you designed a better mousetrap, this is the way the saying goes, then the world will beat a path to your door. And maybe it was true in the 19th and early 20th century. It's certainly not true today.
No,
So,
absolutely not.
So if you have something that people don't want, you're not out of business, but unless you recognize that. If you don't recognize that you will go under, as I have done in a couple of places that we're not talking about today.
Let's not bring those back up.
No, I mean, there were sad experiences, but my belief, yeah, I had something that was better for the construction industry, that was better for recruiting, and sometimes the businesses went along, kept alive for a period of time, but never grew because the demand for it was not there. And I think that a lot of people have that problem. And it's, as I said, it's not really a death knell to have something that people don't want. What you can do in many instances is recognize that what you have helps with something they do want. And then you can take them from what they say is their want to what you have, which may be their need.
Right, exactly.
People don't distinguish between what they want and what they need.
No,
that's that we all know. We all
well, it's like hair, haircuts and cupcakes, right? Everybody needs a haircut, right? But nobody really needs a cupcake, right? Well, some people actually need cupcakes, but both businesses can flourish, right? Because there's enough people who want cupcakes who will buy cupcakes even if they don't need them.
Absolutely. In fact, one of the other criteria that the Forbes article did was competition. And that's actually somewhat false. You can, if you're starting up a business and you're starting it in an area where there is no competition, you've got a problem.
Oh yeah, that's a huge problem.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's a reason why there's no competition.
Precisely. So if there is competition and you can live with that competition because you may not be more profitable or offer something completely different, but you can allow your small business to compete in an area where there are lots of other people.
Yeah.
So again, I would question that aspect of their analysis and do that with when I'm mentoring. I mean, if somebody says to me, I'd like to do this, but there's so many people already in it. My usual reaction is good. You've got validation of what you want to do.
There's a market. People understand what you're trying to sell. I mean, that's the thing with these super innovative, disruptive businesses. You have to educate everyone. You're like, this is why this is why this is amazing. Other than okay, here's a variation of something else that's amazing. It's even more amazing. Oh, this is great. So there's just so much sort of baggage to get to the point where if you're trying to roll out something disruptive and innovative and nobody's ever heard of it, it's almost impossible.
Absolutely. So now to talk about what we refer to as lifelong mentoring. So we're starting with entrepreneurs who are new. Now, they're not in a position to provide much support for each other, maybe a little bit based on whatever they've done before or whatever's happened in their business up to that point, but it's limited. So they're very dependent on a business mentor. And so we start them in group mentoring, in a group with an experienced business mentor who will guide them along as in any group.
Well, yeah, you don't want the blind leading the blind, right? You need some, at least one person with vision.
Absolutely. So now they're growing in experience. And over time, as they grow, their need for that business mentor is less, to the point where eventually he just becomes, or she just becomes, one of the group.
Right.
And at that point, they've basically been transitioned from group mentoring to a mastermind. And once you get them into a mastermind, they can last forever. And that's
right. But they have to pass. They have to pass the bar. They have to get to this bar.
Yeah.
Once they get past the bar, they can be in the mastermind. That's fantastic. So how many of these have you? When did you start? When did you found the business?
Starting now. So
okay.
No, there are no masterminds, mastermind groups. We're having our first mastermind in August, the end of August, the last Friday of August. 25th.
Oh, fantastic.
And yeah, there are a couple of people who will be there in addition to me, and we want to build it up. We don't want large groups, you know, in group mentoring, some of them are very large. Tony Robbins has what is called group mentoring.
Oh, right.
And he's got
50,000 people at the same time.
Right. Yes. So not exactly personal mentoring opportunities, but great. I mean, I have a lot of respect for it.
Well, not that you're not going to learn something from it. It's just, I mean, try raising your hand and asking a question about your specific business problem. You know,
exactly.
It ain't happening. Right.
It ain't happening. And sometimes they're quite expensive, although he's currently got a free process going on starting August the 1st or 2nd, which is going to be interesting.
I mean, the opening of the funnel, is that what that is?
Yeah, it could well be. I mean, you're right. How often do these free training sessions include within them the opportunity for a paid process, which
exactly.
is great. So there's no criticism here. It's a
sure. That's how it works, right?
Yeah,
it's
very effective marketing. And everyone gains, because those people in the freebie who don't go on have still gained a lot.
Absolutely.
So now, coming back to Acorn Masterminds, what we envisage is a whole network of masterminds. It's not just one that I'm trying to get going. We want a whole bit. They're virtual, so there is no limit to who can belong, and there are advantages in face-to-face. No question about it, and in some senses I would prefer it, but there are enormous advantages of having it virtual.
Oh, absolutely.
Of course, you know from our discussion, and one of the advantages in terms of a mastermind is the ability to have people from different cultures. There's nothing better, in my experience, to trying to solve someone's problem than having someone from a different culture who has experienced a solution to that problem that just doesn't occur in our culture.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
absolutely,
it's the old concept that if you see two solutions to a problem, all of a sudden your mind expands to see a whole myriad of solutions.
Exactly. So this sounds amazing. So you're starting at the end of August and you're looking to expand beyond that. So are you going to be taking people from the original mastermind and then like spinning them off into other masterminds? Is that where the additional groups are going to come from?
Well, hopefully not. I'm looking for sources of new entrepreneurs, but you're quite right in saying that initially you largely will take whoever is available, unless they just wouldn't fit with the existing group, in which case we'll set up a waiting list.
Right, absolutely.
But most cases, people will fit in. And then as we grow, your point is well taken, we may well say to somebody, look, you fit okay in this group, but you'd fit fantastically in that group.
Right.
Why don't you go over and have a monthly meeting and find out whether you fit better for yourself and whether the other members are happy to include you.
Nice. So would you say that a monthly cadence is enough, especially in this day and age?
Probably not, in theory at least, but I think that it's all that is realistic. Now, we're bringing this in at a very low cost. We're talking about new entrepreneurs. The number one problem that Forbes got right is cash flow.
Right.
They don't have much, and they can't afford to hire a consultant to analyze things. So we're talking about an entry level at $100 a month.
Oh, that's really reasonable. That's really reasonable.
And even for that, we're offering a 50% for the first time.
Nice.
So you have a chance to get in, you have a chance to check it out. It's $50, and if it works for you, you continue on. Now, if you've got an existing business, we have a tiered approach. My thinking is that the real value of a seat at a mastermind is somewhere around 500, let's say $450. But recognize that's just not practical initially. So we have a tiered approach where people, as their businesses grow, then they can afford to pay a little bit more for their monthly meeting.
Right.
And so that's why monthly. On the other hand, your point is well taken. And if there is a need, then the mentor or somebody else may be necessary to help them resolve something.
Right.
In their
So
business.
it can happen. You could have support between the meetings themselves in case there's something were to come up. Or do they have to go off and find a different mentor? No, because these people already know each other and they already have a business.
It depends. Certainly as we start, and as, I mean, I haven't talked about my motivation in doing this.
Do you even want to reveal that? I mean,
yeah. somewhat reluctantly, but no, I think it's real. For one thing, in Vancouver, mentoring is a volunteer activity that a lot of people do. So getting paid to be mentored is a little bit against the local culture. But
it's all about the quality of the mentorship.
Absolutely.
Basically. Yeah.
Yes. And in our case, we're talking about a concept that is way beyond an individual mentor. The whole idea of lifelong mentoring. So I came back to Vancouver. My journeys are another story. And I want to stay here. It's an expensive city to live in.
It is.
And so I was looking for something that would create a relatively small but additional income. And I found myself intrigued by this whole idea of masterminds. I was actually recruited by an organization that dealt with provided masterminds, but at a much higher level. Most of the masterminds that exist of the type I've described, peer-to-peer, are restricted to people with $500,000 to $1 million sales.
Right.
We're talking
right.
CEOs. So I found the idea fascinating. I understood the need. And also, I'm coming to the end of my career. People
don't say that.
Well,
you at least have another like 40 years ahead of you.
With some of the stuff going on in extending life, yes.
That's right.
So I wanted something that could be a legacy. And I've been doing mentoring for at least 15 years, and I've been a consultant and counselor and done all of this stuff many times over the years. And so I wanted something that would continue beyond me.
Right.
And also something where all these experiences that I talked about from bad judgment for myself could be passed on, the sort of, I'm not sure if I could call it wisdom, but at least
of course it's wisdom.
the awareness of mistakes that I've made, that I can pass on to other people before I do retire in whatever way happens.
Right. Well, yeah, I mean, you're an absolute font of knowledge. I mean, I keep thinking to myself, is there some way I can create a 3D avatar and feed all my information into an AI so that, you know, there'd be like a Chris GPT or something like that people could just ask questions of?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think though, that's the weakness in Chat GPT or Chris Chat GPT is you can state what your experience is, but it's the ability to recognize what somebody is dealing with and help them understand that, and then give them the appropriate experience. That
exactly.
There's no way any form of generative AI can do that yet, at least.
Yeah, absolutely. No, you're 100% right.
So,
you're 100% right.
So to me, that's we're safe for a while. And so
you can surreptitiously record your sessions and then feed them into ChatGPT.
Yeah, that's true, and leads me to this. I've come to the same conclusion as I did with my weekly Saturday S-AM meetings, Sam, you know, for Saturday morning. I don't want to restrict what people say in the advice. So, but I've got a whole area that is opening up with this business, which I find fascinating. And that is, I've been looking for a source. Where do I go to find new entrepreneurs? And yes, I do the social media bit and advertise in one form or another. Yeah. But there are some sources that are available if I can persuade people to pass them on. And that's the other forms of support, all of which are great. Individual mentors, accelerators, incubators, and other masterminds. They all get requests from entrepreneurs, and some of them get turned down. In fact, probably more get turned down than get accepted. And so my thinking was, that's a place to go to talk to these people and say, I want your rejects. I you know, the people you don't think qualify. And I was talking to one prospect in particular, and he said, well, what you mean is you'll take these rejects, you'll whip them into shape, and then they can apply again.
Kind of like a preparatory school, right? For
Exactly. And I thought that is absolutely ideal, because what it does is to integrate Acorn Masterminds into the whole entrepreneurial ecosystem.
Do this first, and then
you get trained, you go in there, and most of these support mechanisms are limited in time. So not only do you go to them and they provide, you know, an accelerator does a wonderful job of basically training entrepreneurs to be effective entrepreneurs. However, when they graduate from the 3-month program or whatever it is, they shouldn't be going into an unsupported environment from a highly supported environment.
Exactly.
If they came in through Acorn Masterminds, they will stay in Acorn Masterminds in parallel. And when they come out, they're just continuing on.
That's right. And you both take advantage of the knowledge that's being pulled into the group.
Absolutely.
Great. It's a win-win for everyone.
Very much so. In fact, what you just said is part of what I've been thinking, which is if one member of the group goes to a particular support organization and will talk in their regular meetings about what's happening, other people in that group may well say, well, I could use that. So you don't just, you have one failure come in and get grown, built up to apply better, but you may have multiple people applying better because of the experience of the group.
Exactly.
And then after the service, it continues on. So
I love it.
I think it's very practical. Now I have to persuade some people that it is practical. And
well, this sounds fantastic. So if somebody wanted to join, how would they do this?
Well, the best way would be to go onto our website, Josh's effort, which is acorn-masterminds in the plural.com. And there they can sign up, not directly for a mastermind, but sign up for an opportunity to have a chat with me on the subject of whether the mastermind is appropriate for you.
Right.
So, so that's the mechanism. And once we have a discussion, we'll put you into what hopefully will be the best of a number of masterminds.
Nice.
But I wanted to do something in recognition of this.
Okay.
So if anybody listening at any point is interested to contact us, as I said to you earlier, we offer a 50% discount for the first entry to test it out. But that only applies to 1 month for normal applicants. But if they come through this approach, if they mention in their application our super secret code, which is going to be Chris K.
Thank you. I've been bestowed with a code. That's the first time I've ever been bestowed as a code. So that's great.
Then if they mention that in their application, then we will give them 3 additional months. So that's 4 months.
Wow, fantastic.
50%. So I think that's gives people a really good opportunity.
Fantastic. I love it. I love it. So do you have any parting thoughts? Because it sounds like you're very excited about this. And I love the concept. I think it's great. We need something like this to combat what's out there right now, because it just seems like there's so much automation of everything. We definitely need to get back to a more personal touch.
Well, I would agree with that. Love to have more personal touch. I think, as you and I discussed in previous things, we're heading for difficult times.
Oh, yeah.
And so the need for mentoring is going to be that much greater. So
absolutely,
that to me is the final parting word. We want to help people.
Yeah,
I want my legacy to be that of helping a lot of companies grow from being a new entrepreneur to being a successful entrepreneur. And incidentally, if it grows, I already have own the domain Oak Masterminds.
I love the way you're always thinking into the future. That's how we do things.
That is, absolutely.
All right, sir. Thank you so much. This has been great. Good talking to you again.
It.
But this is, I love it. And I'll drive as many people as I can to Acorn because it's Acorn because it sounds like a great concept.
Anyone, anywhere, because we are virtual. So no limitation geographically.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you, Chris.
Talk to you soon.
Enjoyed it as always.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.